In Colombia's presidential elections, Gustavo Petro and Rodolfo Hernandez advanced to a second round scheduled for June 19. The Assembly of Caribbean Peoples asked heads of state of the Caribbean community not to attend the 9th Summit of the Americas to protest the exclusion of some countries. Police fired tear gas to disperse thousands of students trying to storm the Sri Lankan president's home. Sunday, the government offered an olive branch to demonstrators demanding his resignation. Hello, you're watching Tertiary English. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the Tertiary Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The historical PAC candidate Gustavo Petro and his vice presidential candidate Francia Marquez won Sunday's first round presidential elections after securing more than 40% of the votes. Petro will face Rodolfo Hernandez in a runoff. With almost 100% of the ballots counted, the historical PAC candidate won the first round with more than 8,500,000 votes, accounting for 40.32%, and will face the candidate of the League of Anti-Corruption Rulers, Rodolfo Hernandez, and his running mate, Marilyn Castillo, who obtained 5,953,209 votes, representing 28.15%. On the other hand, the National Registry Office confirmed the call for the runoff presidential election for next June 19, 2022. We now go live to Colombia with our colleague Natalia Margarita for more details on Colombia's election a day after. Hello, Natalia.
Hi there, how are you?
Hi. Natalia, could you update us, please, about what is people living, what is the current state in Colombia a day after the elections?
Well, first I would like to tell you a little bit about the main issues, the main aspects of yesterday election day, because there is something at least three different aspects that are very important to take into account regarding these presidential elections yesterday. The first thing to highlight here is the very high participation of Colombians in this presidential election. 21.5 million of Colombians went to the polls. This is equivalent to 54.9% of the 39 million Colombians that were eligible to vote. And this could seem a little bit low percentage, but in terms of the Colombian context, 54.9% is a very high percentage of participation. Usually here in Colombia, we don't have more than the 50% of participation. And this 54.9 is the highest participation in the last 20 years in a presidential election here in Colombia. So this is the first important thing to take into account. Secondly, is also how calm this election day developed yesterday. Let's remember that there were some concerns ahead of the election regarding the violence that is increasing in many of the Colombian territories and rural areas. Also, let's remember that recently there was an armed strike that was imposed by paramilitaries in different areas of the country. So this was a big concern. There was a big question ahead of the elections, how the thing of violence could or not interfere in the elections. And today we can say that yesterday the elections were peaceful. We have very, very few reports of incidents, minor incidents regarding the election process. So we can definitely say that it was a good day for democracy yesterday. And in the third place, it's very important to highlight the high votation of the candidate from the left coalition, the left-wing coalition, Gustavo Petro. 8.5 million of votes that were equivalent to the 40.3% of the whole votation. And this is very important because this was not the first time that Gustavo Petro was running for the presidency. Let's remember that 4 years ago, in 2018, Gustavo Petro was also running. And I want to give you a number. In the first round, 4 years ago, he got 4.8 million votes. And in this first round this year, meaning yesterday, he got 8.5 million, meaning he almost doubled the votation of 4 years ago. So he said yesterday, he said that even though he didn't manage to get to the presidency in the first round, and there is going to be a second round of elections next 19th of June, he said that this was definitely a victory in terms of historical votation for the left-wing sectors here in Colombia.
Thanks, Natalia, for this recent update on the current situation in Colombia. We're going to keep monitoring the situation, and we're going to have a special coverage, of course, for the second round. Now we are going to move on to other topics in this news brief. The Assembly of Caribbean Peoples asked the heads of state of the Caribbean community not to attend the 9th Summit of the Americas to protest the exclusion of some countries. In a joint declaration, the Assembly of Caribbean Peoples expressed its concern about the divide and conquer strategy that Washington is trying to implement. In the face of this U.S. policy, they call on Caricom leaders to maintain unity and reject U.S. interference in the face of the exclusion of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The ACP assured that nations must hold on the principles that govern international relations and respect for sovereignty. They also state that to attend the summit under the conditions imposed by the United States is to endorse its decisions. Gun violence in the United States continues. A new shooting in Oklahoma leaves 1 dead and 7 wounded. A young man killed a 39-year-old woman and wounded 7 other people, including a 9-year-old boy, on Sunday during a Memorial Day festival near Taft. About 1,500 people attended the event in Taft, which usually has a population of a few hundred people. Witnesses indicate that prior to the incident, they heard an argument. The shooting occurs a few days after the massacre in Texas, when a young man killed more than 20 people in an elementary school in the city of Uvalde. In Brazil, a new probe from Datafolha released this Monday, May 30th, showed that former President Lula da Silva would win the first round with 46% of the votes. Lula da Silva leads the electoral race for the presidency of the Republic with 46% of the voting intentions, according to the latest survey. Furthermore, the same poll also highlights that Lula rose 5 points in the same month that the governor of Sao Paulo, João Doria, abandoned the presidential race. The same media reported that the former president has a 14 percentage point lead over the current president Jair Bolsonaro, who has 32% of support. At least 84 people have died and 56 went missing due to heavy rains, landslides, and floods affecting East Jerusalem. East Brazil, I beg your pardon. As of Saturday night, landslides caused by rains in the metropolitan region of Recife in Pernambuco had already left numerous victims. The downpour started earlier last week in a phenomenon that spread through the regions of Alagoas, Paraíba, Sergipe, and Rio Grande do Norte and intensified in the last few days. The Minister of Regional Development, Daniel Ferreira, warned of the importance of the affected population to follow the guidelines of the Civil Defense for self-protection, as there are forecasts of more strong rains. In Mexico, authorities declared a state of maximum alert ahead of the arrival of Hurricane Agatha to the south coast, which has strengthened in the last hours, according to reports from the United States National Hurricane Center. Weather authorities informed that the hurricane strengthened to Category 2 in the region of Oaxaca, and it is likely to make landfall this Monday afternoon as a Category 3. Authorities also detailed that the hurricane is moving towards the northeast at a speed of 9 km per hour, with a maximum sustained winds of at least 175 km per hour. On the other hand, the National Coordination of Civil Protection stated that the southern states of the country are on high alert and more than 200 shelters have been set up in case of a critical situation. We are taking a short break now. Join us again after this. European Union leaders arrived in Belgium on Monday for an extraordinary summit to discuss the possible seizure of Russian assets on the continent. The initiative is promoted within the framework of the sixth package of unilateral sanctions pushed by the European bloc against Russia. The proposal is in line with the U.S. bill that allows Washington to use assets seized abroad to finance the Ukrainian army. The Hungarian government expressed its opposition to this measure, considering it to be against the interests of the country. Sectors of the European Union consider unlikely that member states would reach a consensus to confiscate Russian assets in the region. Poland's Climate and Environment Minister Anna Moskwa said Monday her country finished the free fuel supply to Ukraine. According to Moskwa's statements at the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, fuel was shipped free of charge, but now it is a question of commercial deliveries from the largest oil refinery in this country, which requires a great logistical effort. According to the Polish minister, other supply channels had to be built to deliver fuel to Kiev, adding that the market and finances of Poland are a priority for the government. Ukrainian authorities last week suspended state regulation of fuel prices in order to saturate the market and amid growing shortages of gasoline and diesel fuels. In the Donbass, the port of Mariupol has been completely demilitarized by Russian forces and is receiving the first ships after the intense battles in that city on the Sea of Azov. Alejandro Kirk, our collaborator, has more.
Mariupol Bay and all the entrances, all the accesses to the port of Mariupol have been demined, demilitarized by the special forces of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Navy.
Our Special Forces unit has completed an event to clear the Mariupol port waters together with a group of combat divers. All tasks were fulfilled in full the waterways, in the coordinates neighborhood in about 10 minutes. What measures are in place now to rule out the possibility of any sabotage groups in the area? The weather is constantly changing. The sea is stormy, so you have to work in general terms right away. The water is murky, the eyes can see, but you have to work with your hands. In short, all tasks by touch.
Sailors show the remains of a crane ship sunk by the Ukrainians to prevent access to the port.
It turned out to be blocking the entrance to the harbor, and the harbor was blocked off by two screens. Access blocked, impossible to enter the port.
Anti-tank and anti-personnel mines had been hidden everywhere.
We have a standard sign. That is when the demining team works. When ammunition detected, the calculation number to find the ammunition says a flag, thereby indicating there is explosive objects. Then the commander of the mining groups approaches, decides to blow up the ammunition depending on the charge, or evacuate it, if it's subject to it. If not, it is destroyed on the spot.
Alejandro Kirk, Telesur, Mariupol, People's Republic of Donetsk.
Nepali rescuers pulled 14 bodies on Monday from the Wrangell wreckage of a passenger plane strewn across a mountainside that went missing in the Himalayas with 20 people on board. Air traffic control lost contact with the twin other aircraft operated by Nepali carrier Tara Air shortly after taking off from Pokhara in western Nepal on Sunday morning, headed for Yamsam, a popular trekking destination. Helicopters operated by the military and private firms covered the remote mountainous area all day Sunday, aided by teams on foot, but called off the search when night fell as bad weather hampered the recovery operation at around 3,800 to 4,000 meters above the sea level. The search resumed on Monday. Civil aviation authorities have not reported yet on the cause of the crash.
If we analyze the pictures we received, it seems the plane did not catch fire. Everything is scattered across the site. The flight seems to have collided with a big rock on the hill. A Nepal Army team is busy with rescue efforts. Since the site seems very slope, it is difficult to reach there, but the rescue efforts are on the way.
We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. Police fired tear gas to disperse thousands of students trying to storm the Sri Lankan president's home Sunday as the government offered an olive branch to demonstrators demanding his resignation. Anti-riot squads used water cannon followed by tear gas as furious protesters pulled down yellow iron barricades across a road leading to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence in Colombo. Thousands of men and women demonstrated for the 51st straight day outside Rajapaksa's free-front office, demanding he step down over the country's worst economic crisis since independence. Female medical and science students joined the protest, with many running for cover when authorities unleashed water cannon. An unprecedented shortage of foreign exchange to import even the most essential supplies, including food, fuel, and medicine, has led to severe hardships for the country's 22 million people. Investigations are ongoing in Burkina Faso's Percoa zinc mine as 2 more dead bodies have been recovered, bringing the total of victims to 6. 2 miners are still missing. Unexpected torrential rains flooded the mine 6 weeks ago, trapping 8 miner workers working at a depth of more than 500 meters. Despite diminishing hopes, rescue efforts continue and experts have been flown in from Canada, Australia, and South Africa to help with operations. The group of miners consisted of 1 Tanzanian, 1 Zambian, and 6 Burkinabes. Authorities are yet to reveal the identities of the bodies that were recovered. In the heart of Gabon's equatorial forest, officers from the Ministry of Water and Forestry inspect vehicles in search of game or guns that potential poachers could have hidden. Although this small Central African country has made the protection of its biodiversity a priority, cohabitation between animals and villagers remains complicated. Gabon's anti-poaching brigade search vehicles from top to bottom. The unit's task is to help guard Gabon's rich biodiversity. Forests cover 88% of the surface of this small Central African nation, providing a haven and a tourism magnet for species ranging from tropical hardwoods and plants to panthers, elephants, and chimps.
We have observed strong poaching activities in these areas, so we had to be present on the ground to regulate these activities. It should be noted that hunting in Gabon is not prohibited. It is regulated.
China's President Xi Jinping reiterated his commitment to maintain cooperative and respectful relations with Pacific Island nations in order to promote mutual development. In a written speech to the second China-Pacific Island countries' foreign ministers meeting on Monday, the Chinese leader recalled that his country upholds the idea of equality of all countries and is guided by the principle of seeking the greater good and shared interests that yield real results based on friendship and good faith, as well as the development of friendly ties. In this regard, President Xi reiterated his readiness to work with Pacific Island countries to strengthen trust, build consensus, and the joint pursuit of development, and join forces to build an even closer community of China and the Pacific Island countries with a shared future. Fijian President Ratu William Katoni Verde said on Monday that his country has been proud of the strong relations with China and will continue to firmly adhere to the One China principle. While meeting with visiting Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, the Fijian President expressed gratitude to China for providing his country with selfless support and assistance, which has facilitated Fiji in speeding up economic development and improving the livelihood of the Fijian people. The President added that Fiji and China have long enjoyed a lasting history of friendly exchange, and Fiji stands ready to deepen cooperation with China in all fields so as to achieve common development and prosperity. For his part, Wang said China's development and revitalization are the common achievement of the developing countries and a growing force for world peace, demonstrating that China will be more resourceful and powerful in safeguarding the legitimate interests of the developing countries on the international arena. The financial hub of Shanghai is taking vigorous steps to reopen business and production in an orderly and fast manner amid continued easing of the COVID-19 pandemic in the city of 25 million residents. As of Sunday, a total of 2,021 firms from the industrial trade and services sectors in Baoshan district have resumed business and production. Some 62,000 employees have returned to their posts. The district government of Baoshan rolled out 10 measures, 25 guidelines, and 1 billion yuan, $150 million worth of funds to offer relief to tens of thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises and around 1,000 key enterprises. In the meantime, local authorities coordinated with 28 financial institutions to ease the financial burdens on innovation-based science and technology enterprises. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.